That was an early start. Got up at 3:30 this morning, and I guess I was out the door by 10 to 4 or something like that, and did my hike up a certain mountain as I'm trying to find this one particular buck. And holy cow, it's, I think finding a needle in a haystack is probably easier, but anyway, that's what I'm doing. Sun's coming up now, and nothing's happening. So it's time to share a story while I'm here, and it's not a bad setting. There's no epic backdrop right now, but it's pretty cool being in the timber up on the side of this coastal mountain in British Columbia. All right, so this is a bit of a goopy story. This happened to me about, I don't know, maybe 5 years ago or something. And I was trying to thin out a particular wolf pack up the Pemberton Valley. And I was in this swamp. I guess I should back up a little bit. Well, no. Yeah, before this happened, yeah, it was one of the last times I was there. So there's a few stories that link up to this one that start previous before this happened, but I've been thinking about this one, and I'll share this right now. I can share the other ones later. I had already had a bit of a crazy encounter about 7 kilometers farther up the valley from where this happened, which was the pivotal moment where I decided I was just going to leave this whole topic alone, not look for anything weird, not look for these things intentionally again. I'm done. I'm good. I got the message. I'm not doing it, and I'll tell that another time. It's a little more time consuming. So I'm after this particular pack of wolves, and it's about 17-ish kilometers up this main line, logging road. And previous to that, some of the stories that were shared to me were at, I think, around 21 kilometer on that road is one raising a hump like this, and there's an old clear cut on the right, just a small patch, and it was straight up. And Halliburton, the company Halliburton, you've all heard of it, that scumbag Dick Cheney owns it. They were doing geothermal work way up at the head of the Pemberton Valley. And one of their truck drivers, when he was going over that little hump, 20, I think it's 21K or something, 20K, a very large human-like thing, way too big to be a human, went power walking from the bottom of the logging road, across logging road, and he said it power walked straight up that logging clear cut, didn't even falter, stepping over top of logs all the way up. And that's what he saw. And sure, make of that what you want. So anyways, this one particular swamp, how I found this swamp was spring bear hunting. I was up on top of this mountainside looking down, and it's all huge dark cedars. The valley bottom is dead flat, huge big cedars, darkness. On either side of the logging road that goes up the middle of that valley, it's just a wall of 8-foot tall, thick ass dog shit brush that you can barely even get through it. To get back the 200 yards, 300 yards to get into where it's big and open in that big, spooky, dark cedar strip timber in the swamp. And I was up beside the mountain glassing down, and I could see this big hidden swamp down there, and I noticed at the one south end of the swamp there's a pinch point and a little bit of a grass meadow there. And you could just see the grass leaned over from all the bears and all the game traveling through that little pinch point around the swamp. And I'm like, holy cow, that would be an unbelievable spot to go down there and check that out. So I eventually did. I actually had a guy that worked with me one time who we were sneaking, trying to get back in there towards the swamp to get on that trail and see what kind of traffic's on there. And I had a Ruger No. 1 300 Win Mag. It's a single shot rifle for all you who aren't familiar with it. And we're spring bear hunting. And all of a sudden he goes, this kid goes, "Hey, hold it." I'm like, "What?" He goes, "I think I see a beaver." I'm like, "What? A beaver?" And yeah, it's coming. It's right over there. It's going over a log. I'm like, it's broad daylight in the timber. There isn't a beaver alive that's going to be out of the water in the timber during daylight. Do it at nighttime. Anyway, so I go up on the stump, and here's this great big frickin', like a charcoal gray grizzly bear. and he's on a collision course with us, and he's about 20, 25 yards away. And I'm like, that ain't no beaver. So I got the gun up, took the safety off, and I just started talking to him calm. Said, hey, bear, you don't scream at grizzly bears. You don't want to raise the energy with the grizzly bears. Like, hey, bear, you want to let, and especially when you're going to surprise them like that, you want them to know, you just want them to know you're there as casually as you can without really surprising and freaking them out. So I went, hey, bear, we're here. You know, I had my gun up, and then he right away looks up at us, steps up on top of this log, goes like this a couple times, and his fur puffs up just like a cat. And kind of like the dandelion effect, you know. And he looked at us, swung his head a little bit, and turned around and took off. Perfect. Nice big dark chocolate boar grizzly bear. It's pretty cool encounter. So anyways, we eventually made it back to this corner in this meadow, and the trail is unfreaking believable going through there. Moose were using it, grizzly bears were using it, wolves, black bears, everything under the sun was using this trail, and as it hooked around the wide end of the swamp. So I always thought, and I was looking at these huge cedar trees, like these suckers are big, big trees in there, never been logged, obviously. And there's one huge dead one, and I looked at it, and the way the wind was going, I thought, holy shit, we could make a wicked stand right here and sit on it and watch this little corner meadow and watch that trail. One day it'd be awesome. So I did it. I eventually did it. But in the wintertime, because it'd just be a freaking nightmare packing all the stuff in there regularly through that brush and everything. So I dragged all of the timber in there in the wintertime with my snowmobile and left at the base of those trees at pitch point so we could hike in there in the spring and then assemble it all together. It took a few trips because I used 2x10s, joist hangers, and 1/2-inch plywood. And I used 5/8 lag bolts or 3/4-inch lag bolts. 8-inch lag bolts, washers. I was going to make this thing absolutely a Sherman tank because of the snow load up there, and you'd be able to use it for years on end. And it's funny, one of my friends that came in there to help build this platform was actually the friend of mine who ran into a Sasquatch when he was hunting, and he did not want to talk about it and doesn't want to talk about it. And the same guy who lost potatoes out of his truck, and he just doesn't like the topic, as many people do after running into one of these things. And as we're building this thing, because it is creepy in there, it's absolutely creepy in this big dark swamp amongst all these huge, 5 foot across, 6 foot across, 8 foot across cedar trees. It's just dark, creepy, and there's predator sign everywhere, and it's just a creepy setting, but it's pretty cool though. And as we're finishing up the platform, never forget, I'm like, you know what's going to tear this down eventually. He's like, what do you mean? I go, you know what I mean. If anything happens to this stand, it's going to be tore down, and you know what's going to do it, and it's probably 8 or 9 feet tall. And I honestly thought that. I'm like, you know what? This thing's probably not going to last here. I'll bet it's going to get tore down eventually. So anyways, to give you an idea of what this thing, I dragged an aluminum ladder in there too. So we used an aluminum ladder to get up to it. Put 2x10s on edge, 8-inch lag bolts bolted into the side, or 10-inch. 2, 4, 6, 8-inch lag bolts. Hand cranked with a socket set and torqued right into these 2x10s into the cedar trees. I think we spanned that thing, it was 8 feet. We made a platform 8 feet by 6 feet. 8 feet by 4, 5, 6. 6 feet deep. And the 2x10s were lag bolted into the sides, these huge first growth cedar trees. Chipped the bark off so it was straight dead wood to wood. And then we put the joist hangers in there, had a chainsaw, brought a chainsaw in with us in the springtime, and then cut the other lengths, and we put them every 16 inches in the joist hangers, and then screwed down the plywood on top of that. And then we put indoor outdoor carpet on top of that, and actually put a couple little railings on there because it was really high up. That sucker, I think it was about 12, maybe 10 feet up, 10 feet in the air. And then we left a couple lawn chairs up there. It was a freaking cool platform. So eventually, I think, we saw a lot of game from that thing. Actually, never ever actually killed anything in there, but we saw a lot of game. I think I know I've got some video clips from those days, and I'll add them in here if I can find them later on. I got so many external hard drives loaded with content. It's stupid, and it's a frickin' treasure. It's a treasure hunt finding all the clips I've got hidden there from the past. But I'm trying to remember what the sequence was. So it was one of the winters. Yeah, I had this happen, and then I went in there later on. And so I was tore down. So it was a winter previous to when I discovered the platform and torn down. I was trapping wolves. It was after this particular pack of wolves, trying to thin them out. And it was, you know, typical January, February, freezing, frickin' cold. I think it was like minus 20 something. And clear out, no wind. And it was getting late. And it was about 3:30, 4 o'clock. You know, the sun's gone behind the mountains. And I think it was like typically dark by 5 o'clock then or something. And I'm by myself, and I'm up this old deactivated road, which hooks around the backside of that swamp, and then I snowshoed into the swamp because the pack of wolves had gone trailing through there. And at that time, I wasn't really using baits for them. I was more tracking the pack and then setting for them where they were pinching up and traveling. So I had a steel shank Est-wing hammer in my backpack. I had my .243 rifle with me, my backpack, snowshoes, and it's pretty deep snow. Like by then, we're talking 5 feet of snow underneath your feet walking through there. And I'm following this wolf trail. And when you're in that more open timber and you're trying to set wolf snares on a trail, you don't have that thick underbrush to choke to. So what would I use? I would use 3 fencing staples about 2 inches long, and I would swing the hammer and put those staples through the end of the wolf snare and staple it to the side of the big cedar tree. So I use it was one of those Est-wing hatchets. So I would hatch it off the bark, so it's like straight to wood, and then I'd put the fencing staple into the wolf snare and smack it home with this steel shanked Est-wing hammer, right? Hatchet. So any of you have been out near a construction site, you know how loud that pop is when you finally seat the nail into the wood. You know, bang, pop, pop. It's like that. And I'd set 2 of the staples. And I'll tell you what, when you are alone in those creepy places, and after you have ran into something in the forest that absolutely scared the crap out of you when you were younger, which you will never ever forget, and you will never ever not think about every single time you go in the woods afterwards, your senses are more alive. Like even right now, where I am right now. You know, you're not just listening to birds or whatever. You're listening. You're listening to every single sound there is, and you're listening actually a little more extra on average. And I'll never forget it because I was swinging the hammer, bang, pop, pop, and I'm making noise. You know, it's freezing cold out, and you're breathing hard. And I just threw it down to reach into my bag, and I thought I heard something. I just heard something. You know, stop and you're listening, and then all of a sudden, above me on an angle like that, like right up there, by the sounds of it, maybe 100 yards away from me, was a clear, crisp whap of wood on wood. And the only way to describe it would be like a huge, solid, big baseball bat. Not a regular sized one, a big one. And it whapped into the side of a tree, crystal clear. And I'm like, instant hair on the neck stands up. And, you know, you think, okay, well, maybe it's just bark popping. You know, sometimes, I don't know, you have to be, if you've been in timber where it gets into the minuses and there's poplars, hardwoods, the bark will pop. Pretty sure it's the bark that pops, and it's a common sound, you know, pop, pop. And I'm hoping that's what I heard. But then above me, over here above me, about the same height, and this one sounded about 150, 200 yards away. Then I heard the unmistakable whop of wood on wood with a very, very strong high impact. And then I heard and then on this side of me up there, and that's where my snowmobile is, in the direction of that thing, but it's right at the bottom of the rock wall. And then that, the sound of wood cracking on the side of a tree, impact, echoed back from there again. And then I just went instantly to, oh shit, instant adrenaline. Your heart is beating out of your chest, and I don't need to see what's making that sound. And I instantly went to Chris, grab my gear, throw it in the backpack, put the backpack on, grab my rifle, look at the ground, and I started marching out, snowshoeing back out to my snowmobile. And then one more pop came from behind me up on top of that hill, and nobody's there. Nobody. I mean, nobody. You're the only trail. My snowmobile was the only track going up that deactivated trail, and obviously there's no snowshoe prints in there. And up on the side hill here, there's no roads. It's all big mature timber, straight up the wall from the valley bottom. And then and that thing smacking on this side of me above my snowmobile, it didn't do it anymore either, and I didn't look up there. I just deliberately walked straight to my snowmobile. Then I had to turn the damn thing around, and I'll tell you what, I was absolutely stressed out to the max. It wasn't a very good, pleasant experience, and turning around the snowmobile really sucked ass. Because an older one, every time I put it in reverse, it would bog down because there was no laid out snowmobile trail. There's this deep snow, and I had to get off of it and jerk the frickin' ass end of it up, and you're just stressing to rat shit that something's either gonna come. You just not into this experience. I'm just not into it, and you can't get out of there fast enough. And as soon as I got it facing out, I pinned it. I pinned it, and I did not look back, and I didn't want to look back behind me. Because another thing as well is, I'll never forget, a friend of mine told me about his brother who's a hunting guide, and he had one of these things pacing him through the timber on his snowmobile, pacing him, running parallel off to the side, and it kept up with him effortlessly. And it was a large reddish brown human-like being, 8 or 9 feet tall. And teach around, some people out there might be into something like that. I'm not. I had my face-to-face experience, and I had another experience that scared the shit out of me. And this particular moment in time, I was definitely not into it, and I never went back there. I don't think I've never been back. No, I went back. I've been back into that swamp twice since. This is years back. And actually, just recently, I went in there last spring with a girlfriend of mine. She wanted to see this, and I took her in there. She only lasted about maybe 2 minutes and wanted to get the hell out of there. Because it was later on, early spring, a friend of mine and I decided to go into we call it the stand. We're going to go into the stand and see what's going on, see what kind of sign was in that green grass at the end of the swamp. And the thing had been absolutely torn down. And on this side, the side of the platform that faced the game trail, the 2x10 was pulled out, tore off, and you could see you can see where the lag bolts were actually pulled out and torqued out. And 2 pieces of the plywood were on edge between 2 hardwood tree trunks like this, about 25 feet off to the side where the platform was. The 2 plywood sheets were over here, and they landed on edge between two tree trunks. And you could see the lag bolts were actually torqued out in different directions, right? And no, it wasn't the snow that did that. Unfortunately, it was blatant obvious that something had torqued the 2x10 out, split it in the middle, and one piece was torqued down and the other piece is torqued out from the directions of the 2 lag bolts went off to the side, and these other ones were torqued down. And but the plywood over on edge of the other hardwood trees was enough to go, okay. I knew it when we built that thing, that it was eventually going to get tore down, being where it was. And that was it. And I saw that, and then like, I'm good. I don't need to hang out in here anyway. And then a girlfriend of mine last spring or spring before, I was telling her about this, and she wanted to go in there. And went in there early spring, and it was pretty creepy. And she was all eyeballs, saying, "Oh my God, that's like completely obvious." I'm like, yeah. And some people might say, "Oh no, it was a bear." No, it wasn't a bear. There's no bear alive that's going to reach up 10 feet off the ground and torque anything like that sturdy and tear it off. It's not going to happen. And furthermore, the entire thing would have smelled like wood. It doesn't smell like a meal for a bear. And the few years that we utilized it to sit on to bear hunt, bears didn't even look at it. They never looked up at us. It's not even a factor. So there you go. There's a few interesting mentions for those of you who are curious. Guaranteed many of you out there have heard the sounds in deep dark timber of wood impacting wood. Very, very loud sounds. And make of it what you will. Say what you will, think what you will. Doesn't really matter. That's just another one of my multiple experiences in the wilds, in the mountains of British Columbia. And it's nothing I crave. I don't crave it. I don't seek it out. And it doesn't interest me. As soon as you see one of these things, I'll tell you what, as soon as you have seen one of these damn things in the woods, unless you're an absolute freak, there's nothing about it that is fun. There's nothing fun about having an experience like that. And I think the reason why it's because obviously the general population isn't fed the information about these beings openly. We're not educated on these things. So when you see one, it really, really, really is a lot to take in. It's a lot to deal with, and it's not fun. All right, and that's why I'm not into it. And as far as the general population who doesn't spend any time at all in remote places, and this particular topic of Bigfoot or Sasquatch, I was recently in Las Vegas last week, and I'm watching TV, flicking the channels. So I don't watch TV at home. As a rule, I don't watch TV, and the reason why is because TV, it keeps you dumb. Okay, if you wanna absolutely waste your brain, just spend time watching TV. And I'm flicking the channels, and all of a sudden, here's this show, which I've never watched before, and I actually made it. I think I made it through about 2 minutes, and it was called Finding Bigfoot. It was so embarrassing. It was just such an embarrassing display of lunacy, and it's just your classic. Makes you shake your head. You just shake your head. It's like, are you serious? Really? You absolute fucktards. If you want to discredit a topic like this, as best you can, make a TV show series about it and then slowly turn it into some kind of reality show. It's like, good God, how could anybody even do that? How could you even do that? How could you want to be on TV in the first place? Because TV is about 99.9% bullshit, and embarrassing bullshit, just like this stupid TV show. If for the people that have had these experiences for real and get discredited or laughed at, of course they do. When you have absolute fucktards, like these idiots that are producing this show called Finding Bigfoot, when you have people doing that and feeding that absolute brain-dead garbage to the population, what do you expect? If that is the information that's being given to the public, you're not going to be able to discredit that topic anymore. You're not going to be able to discredit this topic to the public any more efficiently than you would by developing a show like this show called Finding Bigfoot. Absolutely embarrassing. But whatever, teach your own, it's entertainment. If that's what you're into, that's what you're into. But I'm just giving you the heads up if that's where you get your information on this topic from. So there you go. I guess it's time for me to get my butt off this mountain and get things done. It's actually kind of chilly up here. But anyway, there you go. There's another account into their first-hand experience, and that's what happened. Again, it's obviously nothing too exciting. It's amazing, you know, today, I guess it's a generation today, they've been growing up with GoPros and growing up with video of everything under the sun. And, you know, you hear people, you hear some people sending me messages, I can't believe you don't have anything on video. All these stories, you don't have anything on video. You'd think you'd have it on a GoPro by now. You know, those same people that have that complaint, I wonder how angry they get at authors of books when they read stories out of a book and there's no video to back up the book or their story in the book. Really?